A big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. 2 years into the pandemic and digital transformation has proven to be absolutely essential in today's complex era. The big leap, we're told, is going to be a parallel virtual world where most of us will reside along with our physical realm and reality. I'm talking about the metaverse. A lot of us are still trying to figure out what this parallel virtual world will entail and how it will change the course of our everyday lives. Meanwhile, brands across the world have started some serious work in the metaverse, and one Indian brand that made its debut during Holi this year in the metaverse was none other than Tata Tea by hosting a first of its kind Holi party. Interesting, isn't it? Well, why are brands rushing to secure their position in the metaverse? How will it impact engagement with consumers? And of course, how's Tata consumer products as a whole doing in the post-pandemic era? Well, to answer all those questions, I'm joined by Puneet, President, Packaged Beverages, India and South Asia, Tata Consumer Product. Thank you so much, Puneet. Truly a pleasure having you on Brand Equity.
Thank you, Sonali. Thank you for having me.
I'm going to dive straight into the most exciting part of this interview before I, get into more businessy stuff. And I'm really talking about, your metaverse Holi party. A very novel thought. So take me through, how you thought about it, the execution part of it, and for people like me and my viewers who may not understand what's the metaverse and how do you play Holi, on the metaverse. Just take us through how it happened and what was the kind of response and how enjoyable was the whole experience to play Holi virtually.
First of all, I think Tata Tea has, as a brand, has always, engaged with consumers via unique campaigns, relevant touch points, disruptive ideas. Before the word brand purpose got coined, we had, launched Jagore campaigns years ago. Last 2 years, we've been working on a hyper-local campaign, which is about curating a marketing mix which is very, very customized and relevant to particular states, including packaging, blends, etc. So this time we thought, we will continue keep this disruptive ideas going on, and we married the tech world and the hyperlocal idea by bringing this thought of celebrating what we call the world's first ever Holi in metaverse. And it was a really exciting campaign. Metaverse is really about just creating this environment in which you basically get users to come and interact with that environment. And this metaverse Holi was exactly like that. We basically created an environment where consumers would come, choose their own avatar, choose a pichkari, basically choose their rang, and just go and play with each other. There was a rain dance going on. There was a concert where we had Sachet and Parampara, or a very well-known duo who sing songs, etc., who were sort of playing melodies, etc. So it was really about recreating a Holi experience.
Awesome initiative. But, as a lay consumer, right, I would like to understand what is this obsession that brands are having with the metaverse, because explain to us how it's going to change the paradigm of engagement, interaction, marketing, all of that. And I have a very candid question for you. As a consumer, and let's say as a Tata Tea consumer, I'm a loyal Tata Tea consumer, but am I interested in interacting with you on social media? I'd rather be interacting with my friends, right? And this is not a question specifically for you. I'm saying generically for all brands, right? How does that work?
So I think, first of all, answering your first question, why brands are interested or should be interested. See, we are living in an age of content and digitalization. Content is everywhere. And, in this day and age, running a 30-second TVC ain't going to cut it anymore. Communication will get lost in realms of data that the consumer comes across. So people have to find novel ways to interact with the consumers. And consumers need to interact, and consumers have the power, right? They can choose which content to like or not like or be a part of. So what metaverse is allowing you is basically creating that experience which consumers will want to be a part of it, and your brand also is a part of it in an environment where, so it's almost like a win-win. And the numbers sort of speak for itself. So while these are obviously early days, but just to give you an idea, when we looked at the average engagement time that consumers had on a metaverse Holi party, it was 18 minutes, which is like, you can imagine what a 30-second or a 60-second ad would do. And this is an average. So there are a lot of people who obviously engage far beyond 18 minutes. So I think, of course, very early days, but the idea is to get consumers to to interact with you in the environment where they feel they want to be a part of, which also answers your second question, that this is not something. If you see also the way the activity was designed, this is not a, there was a banner at the end and it says Tata Tea Premium Holi and all. It was a environment created for them where consumers could come and enjoy, and through that they were also getting, they were understanding that Tata Tea Premium has created it. They were getting messages across it. We had virtual counters where people could actually have enjoy their hot beverage of Tata Tea. So it's an environment that you give to consumers which they would love to be a part of, and then hence the excitement, both from a brand point of view as well as a consumer point of view.
Firstly, many congratulations, Puneet, on taking on the mantle of being the captain of Tata Consumer Products. And it just happened in 2021. Tell me about how's it been so far, and it's a tough assignment to take up in the middle of a pandemic. So kudos to you. What have been the challenges the beverage space has seen during the pandemic, which we hopefully we've finished our worst phase? What have been the challenges and what have been the opportunities that the space itself has seen?
Right. So I think, of course, challenges. I think the entire humanity has gone through a tough time, and I think the challenges that we saw were more in the out of home area consumption, where consumption happens on premise or out of home. However, because we are a daily beverage occasion, which is tea and coffee, we saw spikes going up in home and people were spending time. And as people were spending time, they were also experimenting. So we also saw a bit of premiumization happening. But I think overall, the two big trends that stood out post the pandemic was obviously, faster digital adoption across categories, which I'm sure across FMCG and across categories we have seen. So consumers, a lot of new set of consumers have come in, and they will tend to stick around for some time. While obviously it will even out a little bit, but they will tend to be there. The second is, I think, this whole health and wellness trend in food and beverage choices. I think that was waiting to sort of explode, and it is now exploding. And we also, hopped on both these trends. So we launched our direct-to-consumer brands, as well as we have launched, blends like Tata Tea Gold Care, Tata Tea Chakra Gold Care, Tulsi Green, Tetley Green Tea Immune to sort of tap into some of these health and wellness spaces, particularly in the beverage space, so to speak.
Which brings me to my next question, which is direct to consumer. And I know that this is, a lot of FMCG brands, including yours, have launched, DTC platforms. I'm curious to understand how this will work. Again, I have a layman question, which is that, I would love to shop for your products, and like I'm focused. Let's say I'm loyal towards Tata for my tea. I may be loyal for coffee or anything else to some other brand. So are you stating that every consumer will eventually go to the DTC platform and purchase it? Because isn't that a bit, cumbersome as opposed to, let's say, going to an aggregator platform where all products are available? So my question really is it a viable medium for all brands?
See, the future is omni-channel. I don't think it's about one channel versus the other. And I think if you were to look at it, and I'm looking purely from an FMCG lens and a food and beverage lens, we are a mass distributed product. We are available in general trade, mom and pop stores, modern trade, e-commerce. So what role would DTC play sort of for our sort of portfolio? So I think what it allows us to do is, first of all, launch a lot of these premium products in an environment where we know that the right set of audience and consumers are there, and they can sort of tap into, and we can tap into them directly. You don't need to go and spread your inventory across the entire general trade. You can go and concentrate on few metros, few cities, and your kind of consumer. So what it allows is a little bit of personalization, a little bit of curation. So for example, we have our 1868, which is a Tata Tea, a luxury tea range, which is of a certain price point. Now we know those consumers. We can tap into them through digital. We can, and we can supply them directly. So makes a lot of sense to leverage this channel. Not every channel may carry this, while eventually we will spread into other channels also. Similarly, Sonnets by Tata Coffee, the grounding, etc., is customized. People select their preference, then it gets grounded and is delivered to them. Now, this kind of experience you cannot deliver in your traditional channel. So I think the trick is that you need to figure out how does D2C, what role D2C is doing to your overall strategy and how does it fit in. And for us, again, like you said, it's a nascent start. But what is allowing us to do is launching a lot of these premium products, test marketing them in a sense, one can also say. We can also fast track a lot of these innovations through this kind of a channel. And the other is also getting a lot of learnings, because what you get to do is you get to instantly see to understand the shopper come consumer behavior. Based on their feedback, you can actually work on more innovations and and the cycle keeps going on. So there's a faster turnaround time in terms of understanding the insights, the actual behavior, because this is actual behavior that you can monitor. So D2C has a role to play. I think everyone just needs to figure out how it fits into their overall strategy and not have one cookie cutter approach.
Which brings me to my next question. If you look at the entire Tata consumer product portfolio, and you've had the world has had a strange 2 years and counting. What would you say would be the focus area now for Tata consumer products, in terms of whether you're going to be focusing on the top end of the pyramid in terms of expanding that and focusing on that? Of course, I know you have products across the pyramid, but I'm saying in terms of people spending more time at home, even people who've gotten used to a certain lifestyle. Even now people are going crazy, going out because we're out of a cage, but that'll settle down eventually. I'm saying, is that premiumization going to be a big focus going forward?
So definitely, I think premiumization is a big focus area. Our innovations, etc., are also in line with some of this, with this agenda. However, in categories, India is, there is opportunity at both ends of the pyramid. For example, tea, which is the biggest source of gain for tea, still remains loose and local tea. And tea preferences, change from district to district, market to market, etc. So the biggest source of gain is still loose and local. So there is opportunity to continue to convert these loose and local users into packaged tea, which our brand Tata Tea Agni does that. While at the top end, brands like Tata Tea Gold, Tata Tea Premium continue providing new experiences. So opportunity exists as both ends of the pyramid, if you have the right strategy in place. But definitely premiumization is the focus, and we are driving and offering. Also because Indian consumers are now getting very used to these experiences, having traveled well abroad. They want these experiences into their home, into these markets. And hence, it's the right time to introduce them in the food and beverage space and get the consumers to try on your products.
During the pandemic, when the fear factor was at its peak, right, people moved to packaged tea. Even people who were buying loose tea moved to packaged tea just because, of the kind of scare we were going through. But the moment the scare is a bit tapered down, and, we've also as humans learned to adapt with the virus and coexisting with it. They've moved back to loose teas. What's your sense of this consumer behavior, and where is it going to settle?
When we look at our panel and look at other figures, we are seeing that the branded growth is actually coming from unbranded. So which means the journey continues. It may have come down, but it's still far higher than what it was, and that's the point. What such events do is it accelerates the underlying effects that are happening, and it settles to a higher normal, and that's what's happening. So you're right. Health and see, I think we are now in a world, as you said, it's still fingers crossed. Hopefully, we'll be able to tide over, and this is the end of the pandemic. But even if not, health and hygiene will remain a continued focus area. And as long as that is there, consumers will always be discerning about the food choices and the beverage choices and their lifestyle choices. And hence these movements will continue, and we'll see these trends, continuing and settling at a higher than normal, I would say, average.
Puneet, retail inflation has been on a rise since September of last year and touched 6% in Jan this year. So obviously prices of daily consumables like tea, cooking oil, pulses have seen quite a sharp increase, anywhere between 20 to 40%. How is this impacting consumption and sales?
So you're right. I think so in tea categories, it's a bit unique because tea actually went through a year and a half of very high inflation. In fact, the prices actually were coming down because of the pandemic. There were droughts and floods, etc. Tea inflation was at its highest. Actually, the prices were starting to taper off, and then this whole retail inflation basically had hit. So in some parts of our portfolio, we are feeling that inflation, or we will feel that inflation, especially in the foods portfolio, etc. So what see Indian consumer, Indian homemaker is a very smart homemaker. They know how to manage the budget, and I think what tends to happen in these times is people actually downgrade pack sizes. Sometimes they switch between brands which are more seen as value for money, but a lot of consumers do switch to lower brand sizes. So they want the same brand but little pack sizes, and they want the entire breadth of all the brands that they have. But these are temporary shifts, and as soon as the trend, the inflation, etc., seems to be back in place, you will see that trends going away.
You don't think consumption levels will come down?
Consumption level, see, we anyway were on a very high consumption level overall, because so some sort of correction anyway needs to happen. Now, how much of this is happening because people will, the kind of if you and I were in the work from home and we were having these cup of teas, and now our time is again back into office and home. So some of this will get corrected. How much will get corrected because of inflation? How much because of back normalcy is yet to be seen.
Puneet, what was the reason behind the name change from Tata Global Beverages to Tata Consumer Products in 2020?
So we were basically we merged with the foods portfolio of what was at that point in time called Tata Chemicals Limited, and hence the idea was that we are going to be in the space of consumer products, and the most obvious name was to get into Tata Consumer, whereas Global Beverage obviously limits you in terms of that you are just a beverage company. So the way we see it is that just from being a only beverage company, we actually came into what we've unlocked the potential of a full F&B company and a multi-category company, and in future maybe even outside F&B. So that's why the name Consumer Products, Tata Consumer Products.
What has changed in terms of tea versus coffee consumption in the country in the recent past? Has it remained the same, or are you seeing some new customer changes, preferences in the last couple of years?
So I think with coffee, so again, coffee is 60-70% of coffee consumption happens in South on a daily basis. But outside South, it is fairly seen as a category which is fairly novel in that sense to the rest of the consumers, and hence a lot of experimentation is happening in coffee, and hence even if you see the launches that are coming across from category players and even the kind of offerings that we are giving, it's really about expanding the coffee pie, in terms of formats, in terms of flavors, in terms of variants, in terms of price points, etc. So coffee, if you go by the official estimates on Nielsen and all, is 1/10 the size of the tea business. But that's because in South, it's also very fragmented, and it comes from very different kind of retail outlets. So I think coffee is set to grow in terms of a lot more experimentation is happening. People want to try out new flavors, new variants, new formats, and that's the way coffee journey will happen. Whereas in tea, traditionally people are very used to and very habit driven, in terms of their cup of tea. But what they are now experimenting is with health and wellness, and different occasions are opening up, and that's the sort of trajectory both categories will see.
Puneet, the question on consumer behavior, whether it be in terms of consumption or it be in terms of how we purchase. We've seen big fluctuations thanks to COVID. So my question to you is, have we moved the needle permanently, or we keep oscillating to and fro depending on circumstances that we face? And so there is nothing really set in stone when one talks of consumption patterns or buying patterns.
The very first wave and all saw people really stocking up, which meant that people started buying, and I'm talking more from the category point of view, larger pack sizes. And of course, over time, that sort of also settled down. So as far as behavior patterns go, people, like I said, a lot of new consumers came into online shopping and, buying daily need categories online. So I think that behavior the second behavior will stay. There will be a lot of users who will continue probably to also buy online and, even their daily needs. I think as far as the big pack behavior goes, I think some of them it will again settle higher than average. But of course, we will not see stocking up or pantry loading happening to that extent. So in that sense, the trend may start coming down. And the other trend was a lot of experimentation. Certain brands sometimes were not available, or even if they're available, consumers were sitting at home, so they wanted to experiment a lot. Of course, again, while that experimentation may go on, but not probably to the extent that was happening in the last 2 years.
So would you say in toto that we are at a time, both you as a marketer and we as consumers, are in a space of complete experimentation, whether it be how we consume, how we buy, or how we interact with you as a brand, is all in a state of current experimentation, and what will actually be set in stone, we'll have to wait for a few years. Would that be a right assumption?
Yeah, I think more than experimentation, I would say people are wanting to try out now new experiences, and they don't, and they feel that, especially in areas like food and beverages, they can try out, and a lot of in-home consumption had also gone up, but even out of home also a lot of experimentation happens. So I think this need for variety, need for premium experiences, need for varied experiences will continue. And yes, I think we are on the cusp of a food and beverage package journey in India, and I think it will continue for some time before it settles, at a certain point. But yeah, it's an exciting times ahead for us marketers and consumers.
Which brings me to my last question. Definitely very complex, challenging, and exciting times for marketers. Agreed. But what is the 2 or 3 things that you're very excited about in terms of when you look at the future? And what are the 2 or 3 things that are giving you sleepless nights?
So I think what we are really excited about is this whole tech meets marketing sort of area, and now earlier we used to hear things like metaverse and Web 3.0 and VR, AR, and now we have started incorporating them in our plans, and we see a very exciting future ahead. And so I think that's the most exciting part. All of us are in a digital age, and we feel this is the right step for us to experiment on as far as opportunities are concerned. I think the challenges, like I said, are more macro and seem to be there more in terms of the retail inflation, the continued things that are happening across the world, and the possibility of a fourth wave, or so to speak. I think those will keep on hanging over our heads, and one needs to obviously have plans in place to ensure how you sort of counter them. But yeah, I think we're still a while away. It's still a while away from us, all of us, wishing that this thing has gone away. But one can always hope for the best.
So on that note, Puneet, thank you so much for taking out time and patiently explaining to us all your new initiatives and ideas of the future. Here's more power to you and, of course, Tata Consumer Products. And may you keep serving us with a lot more innovative products and, of course, a lot more interactive way to interact with you and, of course, also purchase your products. Thank you so much.